Hello, and welcome to the Angus and Pete Show. Views and opinions are strictly those of the presenters and their guests and should not be taken as advice. Goodness knows, we're not qualified to advise you about anything. Side effects may include mild amusement and occasional enlightenment with feelings of embarrassment, apathy, disappointment, and pity.
Welcome to episode 32. I'm Angus Pacey.
And I'm Pete Brown, and we are the Angus and Pete Show.
The place where you can listen to two guys chatting about that riveting world of customer engagement.
Or as you may know it, call centre, contact centre, customer service, customer experience, CX, or whatever else you're calling it this week.
And if you want to know more about us, then just check us out on LinkedIn. So, Pete, we're slowing up for the summer, but this is another one of those season one recaps where we group the episodes together that we thought have got a common theme for those individuals that are totally lazy and feckless. You know, those ones that have got the attention span of a goldfish who can't sit long enough to listen to a full episode. So we'll keep this short, punchy and to the point.
Yeah, we're going to do a few of these while we decide whether we're going to do a season 2 or not. Listeners out there, please let us know if you think we should, or if you think we shouldn't, or if you just don't care. They're all valid answers, aren't they?
Yeah, no. But we need to find out. So please contact us. So let's get on with this recap. This time we wanted to look back at what we're calling our RFP Trilogy. Now let's go back. Episodes 5, 6 and 7. And we titled those
The Real Fucking Problem, The Right Fucking Process, and The Remarkable Fucking Proposal. Beautifully profane and packed full of hard truths and real-world tactics, Angus.
And then to top it all off, we did episode 21, which featured one of our CX insiders, the legend that is Terry. He's a seasoned contact center and CX seller with scars from the front line. In that episode, he brought insights that really reinforced and I think also challenged some of our original takes, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he certainly did. So let's start at the beginning. Episode 5 was really an attempt to define what an RFP was. We basically settled on an RFP, a request for proposal, as a formalised, structured buying process that's intended to clarify requirements and invite responses from multiple vendors.
Yeah, okay, that's the theory. Transparency, competition, quality improvement, clarity. Remember, those are the key pillars.
But, and it's a big but, there is often a grand canyon between expectation and reality. We talked about issues like poorly timed RFPs or a lack of clarity where the buyer obviously doesn't know what they want or why they want it.
Now, we all know that some processes are rigged from the start. We call these out because all you have to do is Google a phrase from that RFP and you find very often it's lifted straight from the vendor's brochures or data sheets. It's just nuts.
Schoolboy error. So we spoke a little bit around that in episode 5, but in episode 6, we started to focus a little bit more on the buyer's world. So trying to help buyers to do things in a better way. The key message was, buyers, you are selling too. Buyers need to make the opportunity of responding to an RFP and actually winning it as attractive as possible. If you're a buyer, that means professionalism, it means clear goals, and it means proper engagement early in the process.
People need those informal conversations before those RFPs land. Buyers need to involve all the different stakeholders, whether it's IT, operations, senior leadership, agents, because these are the guys that have got to use whatever you're going to pick for them. People need to be precise about the outcomes that they're targeting. And just for the love of clarity, for the poor buggers that have got to respond to your document, publish your evaluation criteria so that people know. There are no secrets to this stuff.
We also stressed the importance of having sensible response formats that guide sellers as opposed to beguile and confuse them. You give sellers a clue as to the importance of the question you're asking. Align responses to a structure and make evaluation easy from your side. A lot of buyers massively underestimate the time it's going to take them to evaluate and mark an RFP response. So when you're thinking about it, think about making it easy for everyone. Because easy usually means a quality response.
More questions creates a lot of work for yourself.
Right, exactly.
And the other thing that we pointed out is be a little bit human. Deadlines slip for sellers and buyers. And when those happen, communicate. Don't just let things go quiet, because silence is very confusing for everybody. And when we talk about deadlines, don't issue your RFP just before the holidays or on bloody Christmas Eve and expect you're going to get a quality response.
So that was episode 6, a little bit of a hint for the buyers. Episode 7 was really focused on the sellers. And in episode 7, we looked at RFPs are not for the faint-hearted. They are not to be entered into flippantly and without due consideration. We established that the average RFP win rate is less than 10%. And in some cases, it's as low as 2%. Businesses are operating on a 2% win rate when they're responding to RFPs. There's something badly wrong there.
Yeah, that's criminal. We pointed out also, and I think this is for both sellers and buyers, that an RFP response is expensive. You know, these can run to $25,000 or $30,000 or pounds, whichever denomination you want to use. So it's not just about the time that it takes people to fill these out and respond to your questions. It's real money. You know, this costs sellers a lot of money to respond. At least give that recognition.
So the first question you should ask is, should we bid this? Not how do we bid it, or have we got enough time to bid it? Should we bid it in the first place? That's where you start.
Yeah, what we're talking about is that you've absolutely got to have a no bid mentality as your default position. So start with that assumption that it's not worth bidding. And then you've got to be able to convince your internal review board, and we talked about those, that there's a compelling reason to do it, that it's winnable and it's going to be profitable before you start that work.
Make the RFP earn your attention and use a review board to do that. You want to involve people from sales, pre-sales, legal, support, senior leadership. And if the financials don't work, just walk away. Do not kid yourself. Do not chase rainbows. Don't bid on loss-making business out of desperation.
If you are going to bid, be honest. Yeah, when it comes to commercials, be very honest. The other thing which is really important, BLUF, bottom line up front. Answer the question very clearly and put the waffle second. Don't put waffle first. Make sure that they don't need to read 6 pages before they get to the answer, because 9 times out of 10 they'll miss it.
That approach makes it easy for whoever's marking and evaluating this thing to see the answer up front. If they have to trawl through pages, they'll give up and mark you down. So don't shoot yourself in the foot with a waffly answer. When it comes to bottom line up front, we're not just talking about answers to questions. We're also talking about to the introduction to your response. So that management summary, executive summary, whatever you want to call it, is absolutely prime real estate for setting out your stall. So use it to replay the requirements, state your price, explain your value proposition clearly and concisely, and leave all the corporate fluff and bullshit for the appendix. If you can't get it on 2 pages, you have failed. What does a management summary do? It goes to the people who are making the decision in the boardroom. They look at the front page with an exec summary, and they look at the back page with the price. And the rest doesn't matter at that point. Make it easy for the people that are making the decisions to make the decisions, or at least decide whether it's worth digging deeper and asking more questions.
They're not interested in your corporate history. They know it. That's why they're asking you to bid.
They can go onto ChatGPT and say, what can you tell me about the Acme Contact Center and CX Solutions Company? And it will tell them everything they need to know. Don't waste your time. Answer their questions. Bottom line up front. So we did those 3 episodes. And then later on in the season, episode 21, we invited Terry along as one of our CX insiders. One of the biggest insights was, even in public sector bids that claim price is only 30% of the score, price is everything in a lot of these situations. The whole thing's geared towards price.
He even gave it a name. He called it the cost gate. Now, if your price is way off, you're not getting through. It doesn't matter how good your quality score is.
You don't have to be the lowest, but you have to be in the ballpark.
Yeah.
And you have to evaluate that. Because if you're not in the ballpark, you have no chance of making up the gap on quality or anything else that you can use in your RFP response. That was a really important one. The other thing that Terry said was that he aims for a 3-to-1 win ratio.
So what's he saying? He wants to win 1 out of 3.
That's what he's saying.
Which is good, given that's really high.
And he also believes that the cost of a response is in line with what we spoke about in earlier episodes, around about £30,000 for a bid.
I was just thinking about it. So effectively, for every bid you win, it's going to cost you £90,000 or $90,000. That's an eye-watering number.
Which should inform your decision-making process on the commercials of the one that you do win. Because basically it's got to pay for the other two that you lost.
Yeah.
The other thing he confirmed was that if you're dealing with cold RFPs, i.e. those that you've had no previous engagement with, you are kidding yourselves. His win ratio was only 7 or 8%.
Yeah, so don't be one of those tender scrapers. You know, those guys that go on the tender portals and they scrape it every morning and then they decide, right, we're going to respond to these 6, and then the poor pre-sales guys have got to do a shitload of work for nothing. To me, was one of the best takeaways that he gave us is that he outlined a framework for the different RFP types.
So I remember bucket 1, the full and fair tender. Apparently a unicorn, a rare beast, but nevertheless, they do exist. The full and fair tender is characterised by the fact the buyer knows what they want, they understand the commercial landscape, and they genuinely want a solution to a well-defined problem. And Terry called out an organisation, I think it was Telford and Wrekin Council, as a top example in his experience. Telford and Wrekin Council, well done for doing a proper job. And they asked a whole load of questions which were really about how would you solve our business challenge, rather than list your features and tell us how cheaply you can do it.
That sentence you've just said is probably the nugget for the SEs and pre-sales people and salespeople. They're not interested in your features. They want to know how they solve that business challenge. And I remember also his bucket 2, he characterized as not so open. The most diplomatic way of putting it, because these absolutely stink of pre-selection. These are the box-ticking exercises, or there's a consultant that has got some known preferences that is shaping this. Or if you're clever, you go and read the metadata of the RFP documents and you'll find the other supplier's name in that. They're red flags all over the place. Doesn't mean don't bid it. But if you do bid it, go into it with your eyes wide open. Not, like the movie says, wide shut.
Then we came on to bucket 3, the fantasy shoppers. Typically, those organisations who don't really know what they want, other than they want it all. They want the most sophisticated. They want the most elaborate. They want AI. They want full-on workforce management. They want absolute automation and orchestration and every other shin that you can think of, and they want it for a huge population of 17 agents. And when you read it all, they just look like a bit of a nightmare. The fantasy shoppers. There are ways of winning these deals, but it typically requires you to stand firm and advance towards the enemy with a very assertive sales approach.
If you engage correctly, you can absolutely become a trusted advisor and an influencer and really demonstrate value, but recognize what you're dealing with. And then you get the parasites, the ones I hate. The free consultancy crew, bucket 4, the early market engagement or the RFI. You know, they dress as sheep in wolf's clothing. Terry actually likes these ones. When they're done properly, because if you recognize it for what it is most times a genuine attempt to understand the market. But if it's validating a decision that's already been made, it's a waste of time. So you've got to really understand what you're looking at. And this is where I think a bit of early discovery helps you big time.
If you remember, the conversation sort of developed and he said, if you could spend all your time engaging with these apparent requirements for free consultancy, but are actually cries for help, then that is all about engaging early, building your pipeline and influencing. The problem is that the buyers don't always make it straightforward.
No, I think in procurement have probably got a lot to do with this as well, especially in the larger organisations. But I think that's another discussion we can have, is what's the role of procurement? If we do a season 2, that is.
Yeah, we need to get a procurement manager on. If you're a procurement manager out there and you fancy coming on and giving us a bashing, then you know where to find us. There were 2 other things that Terry said in his pearls of wisdom, his wishes for the industry. First of all, honesty. Even when it's uncomfortable, sellers, be honest about your capabilities, and buyers, be honest about what you're actually trying to achieve. Just be honest so you don't waste your time and everybody else's. And he also got on his soapbox about this social value thing, which I've heard about but never really understood, particularly in the public sector. They'll ask you to respond to the RFP, and then they'll ask you to demonstrate some social value.
His explanation of social value has probably been the best one that I've heard.
Yeah, and real social value means a vendor adding social value. So things like apprenticeships, tech donations, environmental impact. It's not about lining someone's pocket with a donation. I mean, one of the examples he gave was basically, can you give us a rebate over the 5 years of the contract, and we'll put that in the social value bucket? What, as opposed to the extortionate discount bucket? Come on, stop it. We're not buying it anymore. If it's social value, it needs to show social value.
Yeah, there's got to be something social there. Right, let's wrap it up. What were the key takeaways from our whole RFP series?
The number one, RFPs are expensive for everyone. For sellers, we're talking about an average of £30,000 to respond. That's time from sales, pre-sales, product, legal, the whole squad. It's expensive. And buyers, don't kid yourself. You're spending time coordinating stakeholders, crafting documents, evaluating responses, running clarification calls.
So if you're not willing to invest the time, maybe just park that RFP, pick up the phone and start the conversation. The second thing that I would take away from this one is that strategic qualification is absolutely fundamental. Sellers, just because an RFP lands in your inbox doesn't mean it's your family destiny. The we have to bid because it's big, or I know the client mindset, both of them will help you go broke, not make your number.
They will. And that's why we push a no bid mentality. Start from no, then force the opportunity to earn a yes. Make it work. Is it winnable? Is it profitable? And actually, do we even want this client? Do you really want the customer? Not all customers are worth having.
Now, if you're a buyer, sending your tender to every man and his dog is just going to give you a shitload of responses that are poor quality, noisy, and it will force vendors to give you the absolutely bare minimum because they know that you've sent it to hundreds of people. So be selective, engage with the sellers early, and also find out who's serious.
Then we get on to understand the type of RFP you're in. The 4 buckets. Are you in a full and fair tender situation? Is it truly open? And is the outcome clear and achievable?
Or the not so open setup. Now, when you just one of those 3 quotes to tick a box, are you up against the preferred vendor with the inside scoops?
Then there's the fancy shopper asking for every feature under the sun, regardless of reality. And alongside that, the free consultancy, when you're asked to pitch in early, but with no real buying intent.
So what we're saying for sellers, this is all about spotting the red flags. And for buyers, it's about self-awareness. Think about what does that RFP document say about you. And then we've got bottom line up front, the BLUF.
Yeah, we love a good acronym. BLUF, BLUF. Just bloody answer the question in the first sentence. Bottom line up front. Don't make buyers dig through corporate fluff. Just answer the question.
So for the buyers, structure your questions so they can be answered directly. Because remember, somebody has got to mark and evaluate these responses. Make your job easy.
And finally, in the spirit of bottom line up front, a strong, clear management summary matters. The clues in the name. It's a summary for management. That's what it is. It's not a brochure. If you've got brochureware that you want to include, stick it at the back where no one's going to read it. Strong management summaries recap your understanding of the challenge, outline the commercial offer, and tell them what value they're getting. 2 sides of A4, not 10.
The other thing to remember is communication is king. Between the organizations, silence is deadly. If the buyer goes quiet, the seller assumes it's a no. If the seller disappears, the buyer thinks you're not interested. You've got to keep those lines open.
Stick to your timelines. If you can't stick to your timelines, say why you can't. Be up to date with clarification answers, give feedback, even if it's a no bid, even if it's bad news, tell people what and why. And respectful communication actually shows professionalism and builds trust. And I've always thought if people are poor at communicating in an RFP, what are they going to be like when they actually become a customer?
Yeah, I think that's important, because buyers need to remember that they're being evaluated too. So if what you've put out there is chaotic, or you've got a process that's unresponsive and unreliable, that says a lot about what kind of customer you will be.
The final takeaway is an old-fashioned concept. Integrity and honesty still actually matter. It might sound corny, but it's true. Terry nailed it. Honesty is always wanted. It's always the best policy. It's always needed. Tell the truth about what your product does. Tell the truth about the costs.
And that applies to social value, especially in the public sector. Don't make this a box-ticking exercise. And if you're a seller, make sure that the investment that you're going to propose is in outcomes that really benefit people. Education, apprenticeships, things that make an impact in the community.
Yeah, if you're a buyer demanding, a cash donation or discounts by stealth, then have a word with yourself.
That's very diplomatic, Pete. Right, so that's it. So what you've got to do is understand the cost, qualify ruthlessly, absolutely know who you're dealing with, communicate like pros, and above all, please, everybody, stay honest.
There's a reality here. The RFP beast isn't going away. We're all responsible for it. But I think with a bit of sanity, a bit of cooperation and structure on both sides, we can tame the RFP monster.
We'll be back next time with another recap in episode 33.
We will. And in the meantime, follow the Angus and Pete Show page on LinkedIn for news and notifications, and message us directly to tell us what you want us to talk about, how we're doing, and whether you want to see season 2 or not.
The show's available on all your favourite podcast platforms, so absolutely, and this is even more important now as we decide whether we're doing season 2, like, subscribe, and share to help us spread the word. Pete, even though it's just a recap, we have to have a joke of the week.
I have a joke of the week. Our listeners may have noticed that we've spent some time talking about buckets, so I have a bucket joke.
You can't hear me giggling at the moment, mainly because
this is why people don't think that my jokes are funny, because you mute when you giggle. I think you should giggle openly and show that confidence.
I'm not laughing at the joke. I'm laughing at your face.
Good. Thanks for that. It wouldn't be the first time and won't be the last. Right. My bucket joke. There's a bucket and it's not feeling very well. So it decides to go and see a doctor. And the doctor looks at his records and he sees that this bucket is a new patient. So before they start with a diagnosis, he just says to the bucket, well, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? So the bucket says, well, I can hold about 2 litres of liquid. I'm only 3 years old, but doctor, I have to tell you that I'm feeling pretty under the weather. And the doctor says, yes, you do seem to be a little pale. Cheers, Angus.
Cheers, Pete.
Thanks for tuning in to the Angus and Pete Show. Remember, it's based on the personal views and opinions of the hosts and their guests. If you're feeling aggrieved or litigious, take a chill pill. There's already enough stress in the world. Don't forget to follow our page on LinkedIn and subscribe on your favourite podcast platform for more episodes. We'll see you next time. Oh, and tell your friends.